Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are getting into something that affects millions of us, but is so often just put up with in silence. We're talking about heavy menstrual bleeding, or HMB. We're going to break down what it is, how you get a diagnosis, and what the treatments actually look like, all based on the latest research out there.
So let me just start by asking you this. Does your period kind of run your life? Do you find yourself planning everything, work, seeing friends, even just a trip to the store, around your cycle? Are you constantly worried about leaks or flooding, or just feeling way too exhausted to do anything? If any of that sounds familiar, you're in the right place.
Okay, so what is HMB officially? Well, here's the clinical definition. And the key thing to notice here is that it's not actually about a specific amount of blood loss. The most important part of this whole definition is the impact it has on your life. If your period gets in the way of your physical, social, or emotional life, then it's considered HMB. It's all about your experience. And if this is you, you are so far from alone. I mean, look at this number. Studies show that anywhere from 20 to 50% of people who menstruate deal with this. Now, that's a huge range, I know, but the big takeaway here is just how incredibly common this really is.
And this isn't just some inconvenience, right? It can have some really serious knock-on effects for your health. This quote really nails it. That constant, heavy bleeding can lead straight to iron-deficiency anemia. And that's exactly why so many people with HMB talk about this deep, debilitating fatigue. It's not in your head, it's a very real physical consequence.
So let's say you think you might have HMB. What happens next? Well, the first step is getting a diagnosis. And, that can feel pretty intimidating. So let's just walk through what you can generally expect when you go see your doctor.
The whole process really boils down to 3 simple steps. First, and honestly, this is the most important part, your story. You talking about how your periods affect you, the pain, any clotting, the flooding, all of it. After that, there'll probably be a physical exam. And then finally, some basic tests, almost always kicking off with a full blood count to check for that anemia we just talked about.
Okay, so after those first steps, your doctor starts to piece everything together. They use this really structured approach, kind of like a roadmap to figure out what to do next. Things like your age and your specific symptoms are huge clues that help them decide if you need more tests. And for a lot of people, a very common next step is a pelvic ultrasound to get a better look at what might be going on. All right, so once you have a diagnosis, it's time to talk about treatment. And that conversation pretty much always starts with what we call first-line medical options. Think of these as the non-surgical starting point for getting the bleeding under control. So what actually works the best? Well, a huge scientific review, we're talking the gold standard of medical evidence, ranked all the options. And the #1 choice for reducing blood loss is the levonorgestrel intrauterine system, or LNG-IUS. You've probably heard of it by its more common name, the hormonal IUD. Right behind that are drugs called antifibrinolytics, like tranexamic acid, and then certain types of hormonal pills. But here's a really important catch. While we know what's best at reducing the amount of blood, we're actually much less certain about which treatments make people feel the most satisfied. The evidence just isn't there yet. And it's a great reminder that effective doesn't always mean I feel better. So just to simplify things a bit, these first-line treatments basically fall into 2 main buckets. You've got your non-hormonal options, things like tranexamic acid, or even just anti-inflammatories like ibuprofen. And then you've got the hormonal route, which includes that IUD we mentioned, combined birth control pills, and progestogen-only pills. So, what if those medical treatments don't work for you, or they're just not the right fit? Well, that's when the conversation usually moves to the next level, surgical options. Now, when we're talking about surgical treatments, the evidence is really, really clear on what's most effective at stopping the bleeding for good. Hysterectomy, which is the removal of the uterus, is at the very top. The next most effective option is something called an endometrial ablation, where the lining of the uterus is destroyed. And this brings us to a really big decision point. It's all about trade-offs. You have endometrial ablation on one hand. It's a much less invasive procedure. You're in and out the same day, and it dramatically reduces bleeding. About a third of women even stop having periods completely. Then you have hysterectomy. It's major surgery, for sure, but it is the only option that is a 100% guarantee that you will have no more periods. It's also worth knowing that there are other, more specialized options out there. For example, if large fibroids are the main cause of the bleeding, A procedure called uterine artery embolization, or UAE, might be a really good choice, especially for those who want to avoid a hysterectomy. Wow. Okay. We have covered a ton of ground, from diagnosis all the way to medical and surgical treatments. But all of this leads to the single most important part of this entire journey, making the choice that is actually right for you. Choosing the right treatment is so personal. It's a conversation you have with your doctor. The right answer for you is going to depend on so many things. How old you are, if you might want children in the future, whether you have other symptoms like pain, and of course, your own personal feelings and what you're comfortable with. So we're going to end with this question because at the end of the day, the goal isn't just to stop the bleeding, it's to get your quality of life back. Knowing your options means you can have a really good conversation with your doctor and find the path that truly actually works for you. Thanks for joining us.